Good morning, everyone. In a shocking turn of events, I'm going to ask you to remain seated for a moment. But I will ask you to grab your gray hymnal because I would love to teach you a hymn that I don't think you probably know. Will you turn in the gray hymnal to number 109? The hymn is called As We Come Marching, Marching. And I'm looking forward to telling you a bit about it in a moment. But first, let's figure out how it goes. So let's just do one phrase at a time. I'll sing and you repeat after me, please. Here's the first bit. As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day. As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day. My turn. A million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray. A million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. And if you're like me, that very last bit is kind of surprising. It should almost feel like a shout. Will you repeat after me? Bread. Bread and roses, bread and roses, bread and roses, bread and roses. Oh, well done. Let's see how well that sticks. Will you rise in body or in spirit as we sing that together, all four verses?
Touched with all the
Well done, everyone. Have a seat, please. I've just realized that I forgot to put my welcome on this iPad, but I have good news, everybody. It's just in a different place on this iPad. So, good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, a progressive religious presence in this community since 1865. Now, be honest, how many of you knew that opening hymn? Woo! I'm thrilled. We have more than half a dozen. That's very exciting. I have to confess that I knew the slogan, Bread and Roses, but I did not know this music. Did you recognize the words at all? Maybe a few more of us. Yeah, in fact, there are other settings of those words. Bread and Roses is a political slogan associated with the women's suffrage and labor movements. That phrase originated in a speech given by American women's suffrage activist Helen Todd in 1911 and inspired the poem we just sang, which was written by James Oppenheim in that same year. The phrase now is maybe most commonly associated with a Massachusetts textile strike in 1912, now often referred to as the Bread and Roses strike. So on this Labor Day weekend, we are joining our voices to a refrain for both fair wages and dignity for all workers of all kinds that stretches back over 100 years. Super cool. Your being here this morning makes that refrain just that much stronger. So on behalf of everyone here at UUAA, thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. For those of you who are still getting to know us, please consider completing our newcomer survey at uuaa.org/newcomer survey to allow us to better connect you to all that's happening here at the congregation. If you're new and here joining us in person, we hope you might stop by the Redmond Room immediately after the service for the newcomer welcome. You'll find the Redmond Room out this main sanctuary doors and on the left side of the hallway, where someone will be happy to greet you and tell you a bit more about the congregation. We have just a few announcements this morning. Starting this Wednesday, September 3rd, Reverend Theresa Rohlck will be hosting a midweek Vespers on Zoom the first Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. for a time of pastoral sharing and caring. Registration links and more information are in the weekly newsletter and on the calendar, and we hope some of you might be able to join this Wednesday. Next week, we have a change in schedule. We return to our two-service schedule, so you are invited to join us for our annual water communion service and in-gathering at either the 9:30 or the 11:30 a.m. service. We also warmly encourage you to bring a small amount of water with you to the service that comes from or symbolizes a source meaningful to you. So next week, 9:30 and 11:30. If you make a mistake and come at 10:30, you'll have an extra hour to enjoy each other's company before the 11:30 service. Friends, we are gathered in community. We are gathered for worship.
Good morning. I'll add my own public service announcement. If you're interested in adult education and learning opportunities in the congregational year ahead, I have two offerings that will be starting in mid-September. You can learn more about them by going to the congregation's website, uuaa.org, and put into the search engine adult classes. The first link that comes up will have more information that you can explore to see if either of those opportunities are of interest to you. Across Unitarian Universalism, we take a moment when we gather to light a chalice, to light a flame together, a flame that can represent the warmth of love that is kindled when we are together with one another in community as we are at this moment. It can represent that flame of hope that burns bright and lives alive in our hearts for a better future for all of humanity, including each and every one of us individually. It's in that spirit of lighting a flame and all that it might represent and hold for us together in community, that I invite Walt Pincus into the chancel this morning. Walt will be helping light our chalice. And if we would, I invite us to recall our familiar words of chalice lighting as we join our hearts and our voices in saying them together. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Walt. We in Unitarian Universalism are also a tradition and a form of community, a style of being together that is not bound together by required beliefs that we all are expected to hold in common, but rather by our voluntary commitment to one another, to be with one another in community as each of us individually learns and grows and explores what it means to be human. That commitment to one another is brought alive and expressed through our community's covenant. May I invite you once again to join your hearts and voices as we offer these words to one another. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth and love, and to help one another. May it always be so.
School is back in session. After a summer of chaos and free-ranging, I'm trying to implement our normal routine again. A routine that includes after-school enrichment activities, chores, and fingers crossed, an earlier bedtime. I have a monthly planner and chore chart on my fridge to keep track of everything. It has yet to be filled out, but I'm working on it. And we have judo classes and piano, making beds, laundry, etc. One of our goals as caregivers of children is to teach them those basic life skills so that they grow up to be independent and accountable adults. This means taking more responsibility for themselves, their things, their household, and their time. According to a recent article in Psychology Today, quote, responsibility can be transformative when it is in step with a child's maturity. This process helps build resilience, self-belief, and a stronger sense of identity. It teaches problem solving, patience, and how to cope when things don't go as planned, end quote. But how much is too much? And are we actually teaching kids to do anything well when we have this very, very long list of things? It was Maria Montessori who very famously said that play is the work of childhood. Has anyone heard that phrase before? Well, when does the work of childhood stop looking like play and start looking like the work of adults? Especially as we get older, the list of tasks and obligations gets longer and longer while the hours in the day stay the same. We know that children and teens are experiencing increased rates of depression and anxiety, especially in the post-COVID era, but that trend well preceded that time. In wealthier, more educated places like Ann Arbor, the stress of intense competition and expectation puts so much pressure on our young people. In communities and households with limited resources and support, where medical bills or parental job loss are common and catastrophic, where systemic racism and structural poverty create huge barriers to success, imagine the burdens that those kids and teens carry. What can we do to ease those burdens? While it may differ from household to household, neighborhood to neighborhood, and culture to culture, the one thing we do know is that a supportive, loving community is integral to finding that balance. Our story for all ages this morning teaches us that quality is better than quantity, that all kids deserve to be kids, that all kids deserve a balance, and that all of us deserve to dream. So few of me, written and illustrated by Peter H. Reynolds. Leo, oh, I forgot the to-do list. I'm sorry. I don't usually include these pages in our story, but I thought it was useful because you can see how many things are on this young lad's list. Leo was a busy lad. No matter how hard he worked, there was always more to do. Maybe making a list would help. Leo's list of things to do grew and grew. So few of me and so much to do, if only there were 2 of me. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Leo opened the door and blinked and rubbed his eyes. It was another him. The new Leo grabbed the list and said, 2 of us will get it done. He was helpful, but found even more to do. A 3rd Leo joined the 2. How about 4? 4 makes a fantastic team. But maybe a 5th would be even better. Still not enough? A 6th came in to help organize the lot. After meeting for hours, they decided they needed a 7th. With 7 Leos, there was 7 times as much work. Leo sighed and said, "We need 8 just to catch our breath." The 8 Leos worked furiously. Maybe 9 Leos would get it done? No. Add 1 more to make 10, each one busier than the next. Leo, 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 and Leo paused to review their list. "Back to work," 9 Leos shouted. "No time to stop, no time to rest." But Leo himself was exhausted. He slipped away to take a nap. Leo awoke to 9 other Leos staring at him. "What were you doing?" they demanded. "I was dreaming," Leo said softly. "Dreaming was not on the list," they roared. Leo smiled, still savoring his dream. The Leos disappeared, one by one. Leo wondered, what if I did less, but did my best? Then 1 Leo is all I need. Just me, just one, with time to dream. The end. Oh, and look, an empty to-do list.
Thank you, Stella. What is our work in community to do together? Some of it involves the work, the showing up, the being a presence to one another in each other's lives, in times of need and in times of joy and celebration. Some of that work involves showing up in our community, in our local region, in our state and beyond, as the presence and voice, the hands, the doing, the deeds of justice making and justice creating and justice demanding. These works, these actions, and so many others are brought alive together in community by one of us through our generous pooling of time, talent, resources, finances. All of that together helps build who we are. And that financial generosity matters because there are practical bills to pay and things that must be taken care of, needs that must be met in order for our community to exist. Thus, every week we take a moment to generously invite your financial support of our community. In just a moment, the ushers will come down the aisles to collect this morning's offering. For those of us who are here in person, you may offer cash or checks into the baskets. If you wish to give electronically, you can do so as well, either here in the sanctuary or if you're joining us from home or elsewhere. On your phones, you can text UUAA to 73256 and select the weekly offering as what you're donating to. Or you can go to our website, uuaa.org/giving, in order to donate to the congregation. This morning's offering will now be graciously offered and received.
Start. Oh. Sorry about that. Let's drink to the hard-working people. Let's drink to the lowly of birth. Raise your glass to the good-working people. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Say a prayer to the common foot soldier. Spare a thought for his back-breaking word. Say a prayer for the spouse and the children who burn the fires and till the earth.
And when I search a faceless crowd, a swirling mass of gray, black, and white, they don't look real to me. In fact, they look so strange.
Raise your glass to the hard-working people. Let's drink to the uncounted heads. Let's think of the wavering millions who need leaders but get gamblers instead. Spare a thought for the stay-at-home voter. Their eyes and gaze got a strange beauty show. And a parade of the gray-suited crafters, a choice of cancer or polio.
And when I search a faceless crowd, a swirling mass of gray, black, and white, they don't look real to me. In fact, they look so strange.
Let's drink to the hard-working people. Let's drink of the lowly of earth. Spare a thought for the ragtaggy people. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Let's drink to the hard-working people. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Let's drink to the 2,000,000. Let's think of the humble at birth.
That was brilliant. Thank you. Mark, I didn't know you're so talented. You're going to have to watch out now. We're going to have you back in our services. As our ushers bring forward the offering, please rise and body your spirit. Let us join our hearts and voices once again to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Please be seated.
Please picture in your mind a medical student, an exam room, and a practice patient. Remember playing doctor growing up? What I'm calling a practice patient is actually a standardized patient. Anyone ever heard of this job? Ooh, quite a few. Any of you actually ever had the job? I had the job. It's a part-time, temporary job at a medical school anywhere in the country, and I had the job at the University of Michigan for several years. A standardized patient, also known as SP, acts out a specific role. Several of us are playing the same role. And the medical student practices being the doctor who interviews and then examines the patient, while a professor is outside the exam room watching everything take place on video. It really is quite an operation. One character I played was Diane, a woman who had trouble the night before. She had trouble cutting a sandwich, she had slurred speech, and illegible handwriting. Diane's husband was concerned. So the medical student was supposed to ask me, Diane, the right questions and do a specific neurological exam and then determine that I was probably having a mini stroke or TIA. This case, among others, was a really important milestone for the students who were preparing to graduate from medical school and take their board tests. For me, as one of the many Dianes, I had to remember exactly what my responses were going to be for each question that the doctor asked. I had to learn some prescriptions. I always have trouble with that word, prescriptions. And for this neuro exam, I was supposed to hold my hands out with my eyes closed, and because my eyes were closed, one hand would slowly fall. And that would be a trigger for the doctor to understand. There were other cases for different levels, depending on where they were as medical students. There was a trouble breathing, signs of diabetes, a terrible fall, and other maladies to act out. The one case that just struck me profoundly was Nancy, 55-year-old woman with severe back pain, trying to get a painkiller, prescription renewed, an opioid. I'm in pain. I just want to renew this prescription again. I've had it for more than 10 years. It just so happens that my doctor retired, so that's why I'm here. The medical students had been told that they were to de-escalate an explosive situation and under no circumstances prescribe the painkillers. Irate woman in extreme pain. The particular case was heart-wrenching. Look, doctor, I can't work. I work as a nurse at a nursing home, and I just help someone get someone else in the bed, and I hurt my back again. I can't just go home and sleep and let this go away. I need to work, and I need my painkillers. The medical student recommends something like physical therapy. Oh my God, I was in a car accident 10 years ago. I was prescribed the drugs then. I'm not a drug addict. Can't you see that I'm in pain here? It's not like I can just go about my business. I'm in pain. I really played the part. It's real, it's frightening, and honestly, I was on the brink of tears. When the buzzer rang and the SPs were supposed to walk out, these young student so the SPs were supposed to walk out. I still walked out, and I was just angry. And I was staying in character, and I don't quite know why, but no one's ever accused me of being a drama queen. These young student doctors were struggling with this, and I was honestly struggling too. Some of them looked just helpless, and they were, of course. Nancy needed OxyContin, and they were supposed to tell her to get physical therapy. The supervising doctor professor came out to the waiting area where all of us SPs were to check on me. They don't normally do this, but a couple of his students were concerned that maybe I really was in pain or an actual emotional wreck. Well, I wasn't really in pain. The professor doctor said I did my job well, but I think I overdid it. I was supposed to be following the standard. I don't think the rest of the SPs were acting as upset as I was. So I dialed it down a bit, but that wasn't easy. For some of us, just the thought of pain and not getting relief puts us over the edge. The whole experience brought on this need to read all the books and binge watch all the documentaries and movies about opioid addictions, the stigmas, the false advertising, the lawsuits, all of it. It really is so sad what has happened. During COVID, we continued on SP work on Zoom. I actually did this headache case. I can't believe it, but after pretending to have a headache for several days, right here, I would tell the student over Zoom, it's right here and it's just been there for several days. After doing this for one afternoon, by the end of the day, I actually had one. I rarely get headaches. Also, during COVID, I was diagnosed a second time with breast cancer. I had a double mastectomy and this crazy but involved plastic surgery involving my whole chest and belly and transplanted arteries and veins. It was 12 hours. I got a whole new body. And yes, at all my appointments, there were several medical students examining by pinching my fat and pressing on my body. You know, like cats do? You know how cats do that? I'm all for it. Bring it on. Hands-on learning, for sure. So, when I returned to the SP program, I wondered about what the students might learn if I was willing to share my surgery experience, what was done, how it was done, and what it looked and felt like. I was in a hospital gown. Would have been easy. So, on the days when students were practicing giving physical exams, I would tell the professors beforehand about my situation with my new chest and belly button and ask them if they wanted to show the students. A few of them said, yes, absolutely, good idea, if I was willing. Some of the students were thrilled to have this opportunity and took advantage of it. They were fascinated and asked questions of me and the doctor. One of them told me that her mother was having similar treatment for her breast cancer, but her mother wasn't sharing anything with her, so she was completely left in the dark. She was quite happy to learn what her mom was experiencing. Couldn't believe how she handled it. The way she said to me, "I'm so sorry you have to be going through this." It was so mature and so genuine, and I want her for my doctor. A couple of students were particularly fascinated by the surgery and then spent a lot of time checking everything out, the scars, the lumps and the bumps, and asking all kinds of questions. One really thanked me. He said he had been regretting medical school, but was getting really pumped up now after surgery about surgery. As he was walking out, he turned around and said to me, no, I'm serious. I was thinking about quitting. Not now. Well, that took me to the moon. Maybe something good was gonna come from this bleeping cancer. Not all the students were so enthused. One young lady was so uncomfortable, she could hardly look at me or my chest and nervously rambled on to the professor, who was kind of at a loss. She wasn't as engaged as the others were. It was embarrassing and humiliating for both the student and me. I cannot get the image of her face out of my mind. I continued working as an SP for a few months, and I let the whole thing with the chest and everything ride its course, and then it was done. I definitely, though, wanted to avoid another negative experience. It's not like a few good experiences could negate one bad one. When I would walk through the hospital as an SP on my way to the medical school, I found that I was constantly reminded of cancer, my cancer. All of my treatment was done at the University of Michigan. Going to yet another practice physical exam was a bit much, so I left the program. Being an SP, a standardized patient, never seemed like a typical job, more like an intriguing experience. When I'd see a deposit made from Michigan in my bank account, I was always surprised. I'm getting paid for this. I always felt like I was contributing something important for future doctors and their future patients. One of the best side effects from being an SP was I got a chance to nurture my inner actress. Maybe after hearing all of this, you might be interested in going on the standardized patient journey. By now, you'll know I'll share anything.
Check, make sure we're still in tune here. You can play the game, you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. And tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another, it doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Shower the people you love with love, show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do what I say now, shower the people you love with love, show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. You can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. And tell me, what will you do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Won't you tell somebody the way that you feel? can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Do what I say now, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Make it rain. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people
Make it
you
rain,
love with
rain,
love.
rain,
Show them
rain,
the way
love,
that you
love,
need.
love, sunshine.
Shower the people you love
Make
with
it
love.
rain.
Show them
Make
the
it
way
rain,
that you feel.
love, love,
Shower the
love,
people you
love,
love with
love,
love. Show
love,
them the way
love,
that you
shower.
feel. Shower the people
Make
you
it
love with
rain,
love.
make it
Show them the way that you
rain,
feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that gift. And thank you, Lori, for sharing so much of yourself with such vulnerability and meaningfulness. It means a lot to us. So what is work? If I asked you to explain it to me, what would you say? What is work? Joy. What else? Getting something done, the act of doing something. Any other thoughts? I heard the word fun. What else was back there? Effort, yeah. So we in U.S. culture, we Americans, we have a funny relationship to this concept, this idea of work. It can be an idealized, romanticized, mythologized concept for us on so many levels. On the romanticized level, culturally we have notions of work similar to what we can wind up thinking about romantic partnerships and marriages. It's going to be a source of fulfillment, of completion, of meaning, of wholeness, of purpose, the perfect expression of who we each are. Isn't that just so romantic? Straight out of 19th century something or the other, some romanticized notion from a different era. And at the level of mythology, I had the pleasure of diving into some of former Atlantic journalist Adam Chandler's new work. He's got a book out entitled 99% Perspiration, and it's just from this year. And in it, he refers to and deconstructs the whole mythos in American culture about work, what he calls the great American abracadabra. And this magical, mythological concept harkens back to storytelling such as this, which will sound culturally familiar. My grandfather came here in 18 such and such with only $1 in his pocket, and through grit and ingenuity and hard work, he went on to do X, Y, and Z. And we are the proud descendants of that lineage and heritage and tradition. It's mythologized. It's mythologized, and it's viewed as a panacea to everything. Hard work, ingenuity, and grit. And if you're having difficulties, it might simply be that education and retraining is the self-improvement is the hard work you need to give yourself to. Give yourself to that. Pursue education, training or retraining, and self-improvement. Let that be your hard work. All of that mythology, whether the education version or the real-life grit ingenuity application of it, are variations of the pull yourself up by your bootstraps thinking, which all leads to the same implicit or explicit conclusion, which is that if you still aren't successful, despite all of that, applying yourself to education or training or retraining, self-improvement, and then in actual work settings to hard work and grit and ingenuity, if you still aren't successful on the other side of all of that, well, then the implicit conclusion is that the individual is to blame. This pull yourself up by the bootstraps mythology, what Chandler calls abracadabra thinking, leaves out systems that perpetuate poverty, indebtedness, inequality of opportunity, just to name a few small and not so small things. So the romantic idealizations leave us with wanting to have all of our inner needs met through our work. It's where we're going to find meaning and purpose and fulfillment. Not always possible for a lot of reasons. The mythologized aspects of American culture's relationship to work creates disillusionment when we explicitly or implicitly buy into it, and then, for many in our culture, can't attain it, despite doing all the things that the myth says we're supposed to do. And there's yet another category of work that kind of muddles our thinking and our relationship to this notion, this concept. What about all the work that isn't even seen as work, that we don't even routinely talk about or understand as work? What's our relationship to all of that? It comes in many, many, many forms. I'm going to talk about some of them. One of the most familiar forms of this is caretaking in any of its manifestations. Caretaking of aging or elderly parents, caretaking of siblings or friends who are in need of health-related assistance, caretaking as a parent or primary caregiver, any or all of these things, none of which we routinely talk about work, but all of which entail effort. We heard the word effort offered a few moments ago. I had a bit of a role reversal experience of this summer, to my benefit, I will say. So my husband, Jeff, has been a stay-at-home dad for 13 years and has been back in the workforce for a year. So that made this past summer the first summer that I have been my children's primary summer break plan. That has never been the case before. And we had fun, mostly. Mostly I did a lot of learning about different routines that I have not typically had lead on, such as making breakfast for everybody, including myself, and then the cleanup after breakfast, and then figuring out what the lunch plan is for everybody, including myself, and then the cleanup plan after the lunch, and then the afternoon activity that was talked about the day before and decided that everyone was going to do, but by the time you get to it, that on the afternoon of, there's all the resistance that, no, we're not going to do that, we don't want to do that. But then you do it, finally, somehow, and everybody has a decent time. And then you come back from that, and then it's time to get the laundry started. And then it's time to figure out the dinner plan, and then prep that, and then get that ready, and then clean up after the dinner, and then you finish the laundry. And by the time you're done with all that, I'm exhausted. There was many a day I would call up Jeff and be like, hi, I think I'm understanding more now about many of the things that you've made look so seamless for so long. And it was lovely. I love my children, and we had a lovely time. You know, this type of work that isn't even considered work, it's just stuff we do because we love people, and so we do it. But there is effort and there is doing involved in all of this. Professor Elizabeth Emmons, now, this is so interesting. This is a professor at Columbia University, a professor of law. I looked up her bibliography. All these intense scholarly legal articles that I could not understand even the titles of. But she's got all these very, in-depth legal and scholarly articles. And then she's got this, a book entitled Life Admin. Very readable, unlike, I'm sure, the scholarly articles that I would not be able to decipher. And in this, Professor Emmons talks about she calls it administrative tasks, or the life administrative tasks that are necessary for simply being human, that no one really qualifies or considers as work, and certainly it isn't compensated. Included on this list, copious list, this is going to sound familiar, of tasks that we must do, but aren't really recognized as work. Completing paperwork for institutions, banks, schools, what have you, managing and coordinating schedules between family members or friends, managing the inflow and outflow of physical mail, email, text messages, all and any communications, maintaining the quantity and monitoring of locations of supplies, things you need in your home, including groceries and food, researching and completing, this is not a small one, researching and completing the follow-up that may be necessary on consumer purchases, including the help one may occasionally need from customer service, from cell phone companies, appliance companies, who knows what else, managing the utilities, the usage and payments of, handling the finances and the bank accounts and the filing and keeping of the records for everything related to taxes, managing, another not small one these days, managing health and medical and insurance matters and all those inevitable mistakes with medical billing that, guess what, we have to spend hours sorting out ourselves, researching and applying for activities, schools, financial aid, government-related benefits, keeping track of important documents that you know you must keep track of and not lose, managing the selection and the upkeep, the maintenance, the repair, the sale of any property, whether you own it or rent it, managing any outsourcing of assistance, such as babysitting, elder care, cleaning services, maintaining correspondence and gift exchanges, planning for any special events in one's life or family's life, or having social activities such as parties or holiday gatherings, planning and arranging for transportation and travel, whether it's daily commuting or vacation, keeping track of everything and anything that needs to be done one way or another in your life because nobody else can do it except you. Are you exhausted yet? I'm tired just from reading that list. And we have to all do this. And no one really taps you on the back and says, well done. Oh my God, you handled all that stuff that has to just magically happen. Good for you. No, we don't get a trophy, we don't get a prize. We just have to do it. Otherwise, the laundry machine doesn't work and nobody's there to initiate the repairs or warranty servicing that's needed. So here's the kicker about all of this. Not all, but more than enough, and I'm sure you've had this experience as much as me. A lot of our consumer-oriented companies in the United States have figured out that the average human being is so overwhelmed with just the routine day-to-day tasks that we must manage all on our own, in addition to whatever paid job or other things we have to do in life, that if they increase the burden, the administrative burden on us, to have to get services out of them, maybe we'll just give up and let them keep their money without them having to do anything extra. Isn't that kind of insidious? Have you noticed that? Anytime you have to call a health insurance company or a warranty servicing or repair, the burden is all on us. You figure it out. And by the way, here are the steps. 5, 10, 15, fill out additional forms, send us photographs, all this. You do it. And then we'll consider what we're going to do as a corporation or institution. As Professor Emmons notes in her book, those who most likely need the support or benefit of some of these things that I've just mentioned, positive outcomes from the insurance company or the warranty servicing, for example, the people who most need it may not have the time or the ability or the skills or the experience to successfully navigate these tasks, thereby exacerbating further social inequalities that exist in our society. I have seen this close up, as I'm sure other families and parents in our community have as well. Anybody who's had to navigate the IEP experience, individual education programs for special education in public schools, it's like having a full-time additional job. There are, simply for one child's IEP paperwork, hundreds of pages of very small print paperwork must be diligently navigated, read, dissected, understood. You have to practically educate yourself to the level of a paralegal to successfully understand what this paperwork contains and what your relationship to it is and what you deserve and have the ability to ask for. Most working families have no ability to self-educate themselves to a paralegal level simply to keep track of something like IEP paperwork. What does this mean for us as a society? So we have all this jumble of contradictions and demands on our time, everything from these romanticized notions of what work is supposed to be and the meaning and purpose we're supposed to find in it, this mythologized concept that work is supposed to define and prove our success and our level of accomplishment in the world, all of this copious, non-optional, necessary, uncompensated work that we must do simply to get through our lives day to day here in the United States, and the fact that many institutions are incentivized to weaponize administrative tasks so that they don't have to do more for us. How do we stay spiritually grounded in the midst of all of this? 3 thoughts, but you may have your own, and I encourage you to have your own and share your own with one another and or with me. You know, on this romanticized aspect of work, it is very similar to romanticized notions that we can have about a marriage or a significant partnership. And one of the things we learn in any successful good marriage or romantic partnership is that our partner or spouse does not have to meet every single inner need that we have. There are many ways to get needs met. You get some of them, hopefully really important and necessary ones met in a significant relationship and marriage, but not all of them, and that is often our relationship to work, where we're able to thrive and succeed. Not every aspect of who we are needs to be met, and every inner need needs to be met through our work. Can we let go of romantic idealizations of work that don't serve us? My second thought on this mythology, what Chandler calls the great American abracadabra, it is so pervasive. When you factor in that it's not just about notions of ingenuity and grit applied in day-to-day work, but that if that's not working, go out and simply apply ingenuity and grit in the field of education and secure that and then return to grit in the workplace. It is so pervasive in our explicit and implicit thinking, and it ignores fundamental systemic realities of how our society is organized. I think one of the basic things we can try and do is catch ourselves. When we start falling into this thinking, either explicitly or implicitly, let us catch ourselves and remind ourselves that compassion for others, compassion for those whom our systems don't work, is one of the things we can bring alive in our presence and being. And in fact, we're called to try and bring alive in our presence and being. And the third thought I'd offer, and this is from Professor Emmons's book, I love this idea because it speaks to the power of being well-connected in community. Professor Emmons offers, we can't possibly be expert at all the life admin tasks that I rattled off earlier in this reflection. There's no way. We may be good at some of them, but certainly not everything. And so we can, in community, and we should, find out what our neighbors and our siblings and our peers are good at. What have they experienced? How do we ask for that help? How do we say, oh, well, you know how to do this. Could you help me with this thing? Or I have no experience with it. What's your experience with this? How did you successfully navigate this? We don't need to figure it out all on our own. This is one of the benefits of being well connected in community. And I don't often see these questions posted in our, for example, in our UUAA Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for those who are still using that platform. But we could, couldn't we? We could start to post in there, I need help with whatever. Tax preparation, or navigating the healthcare system, or figuring out school IEPs. Who in our community could lend 15 minutes or 20 minutes in helping me with something? You know, what a beautiful thing that is to know that we can turn to one another and rely on one another in that kind of way. It's in this way, day by day, we learn and practice together with one another in community how to get through all that is our lives.
Friends, will you rise in body or in spirit, turning once again in our gray hymnal, this time to number 128, For All That Is Our Life, number 128.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all that is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for grateful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all that is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Beloveds, take a moment to look around this sanctuary. Notice your siblings in community. Those of you that are joining us online today or later in the week, you're in our hearts as well. This is your community. These are your siblings on this journey, figuring out what it means to be human, how to live into the very best we can each be day by day. None of us is doing that alone, most especially in a world that throws so much at us that can overwhelm us with simple day-to-day tasks of living and getting through the things we must. Know that you can rely on one another, you can rely on this community, you can rely on faith. Go into a new week knowing that you are held by all of that and by one another. May it be so. Amen.